I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monster to the front! He scored! Barry Monster scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too numb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need that line to throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me outside? Slipping low key and hiding. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype.
The boys are back in town, back again. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC for Loaded Transfer Show. Feels like that just kind of just rolls off the tongue now with the last few weeks. But boys, how are you on this Tuesday evening? Ready to talk some football?
Oh, I am ready. Ready, Pete. If we left the two of you, you'd still be chatting for 20 minutes and leave the chatters waiting. I have to stop them. Come on, lads, let's start the show. But all good with me, lads. Just in the office today. But yeah, looking forward to reminiscing about what happened yesterday and today. Fill in the gaps and yeah. Take it from there. We're running a poll as well. So the question was, would you accept a bid of between 18 and 20 million pounds to sell Kieran Trippier? The options are yes, no, or would you sit in the fence like 00 Stato? So there are your options. It was about 80% said yes so far. I think when I just glanced at it.
So does that come up on the screen for the viewers to see?
Yes, on YouTube.
Lovely. Get involved, people. Get yourself involved in the poll. But look, Mr. Hall, all good?
I'm good, mate. Yeah. Busy day in work, like Dazzler. Yeah, it's been a busy day, but I've been really looking forward to doing tonight's show because we've got a lot to discuss. Lot to, try and work out, try and fathom. It's not going to be easy, but we'll do our very best.
Yeah, definitely. And look, welcome to everyone in the chat. About 100 already in the chat. People streaming through. Make sure you do the right thing. Housekeeping as always. Click that like button. And of course, come and subscribe to the channel. So many new subscribers in the last few weeks. Welcome all to the Loaded family. Make sure you've clicked that button.
Target, Pete. What's your target for the show?
Not my target. You're the man that sets the target, fella. What are you going for this time? I think we smashed them out of the pot the last couple.
50 million. 50 million. That's what I'll go. No. 275. 275.
Okay. Yeah. 275. More than achievable, people. Come on. We've already got 100 in the chat. So that should be 100 likes. Boom. Done. And in there. That is for sure. Look, boys, honestly, Newcastle United has been an absolute whirlwind, as we know from Sunday, in that monster show that we put together, talking all things Newcastle United. And it just seems to be rolling on and on and on, non-stop all the way through. But look, firstly, before we get into the transfer stuff, there has been some confirmation, and I'm not sure where it is, because I just had it a second ago, that Joe Linton has successfully had his surgery today, and they have set the timeline for May 2024 for his return. So they've not said effectively that his season's over, but what they have said is that he'll be back in May, whether that's in time for the end of the season or not. it'll be remains to be seen. But as it says there, they've wished Joe Linton a speedy recovery. So we know it's done. We know he's had his surgery. We know that's in place, and we're going to be missing him for the rest of the season, if not the vast majority of that. But they were a bit of news we come to expect. Now, let's continue on with the conversation. Now,
another chapter piece.
the chapters consider chapter 2, if you will. Let's continue with that, because as it started, there's been a numerous conversations about Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier's move or potential move to Bayern Munich hasn't really gone away. It's still there. There were people that were saying that it's not happening. We talked about it on Sunday. It's not happening. Craig Hope, Luke Edwards, the deal is not happening. He's going to be staying at Newcastle United. However, Christian Falk is maintained in his exclusive that crucial talks today were going to be made with regards to Kieran Trippier. And whilst lots of people were speculating and talking about whether he was going to make that move or not, it came to fruition. So we had that confirmation from friend of the channel, Ben Jacobs, along with others, that a second bid had come in and quite quickly been rejected. So Fabrizio Romano says that formal bid from Bayern Munich came in, and it come from Plettenberg, who is working for Sky Germany, talked about that second bid coming in. But as we know, Ben Jacobs said that bid has been rejected. 50 million euros was talked about, boys, as that figure that could potentially get the deal done. So just on that, before we kind of continue with the Kieran Trippier talk, when that bid came in and you saw that was rejected, Daz, were you surprised by that?
Well, I kind of because I was so busy today, I saw it all in one batch when I got home. But yeah, I was surprised, to tell you the truth, because look, it's around that figure. I would have accepted myself if we can get a third bid. All the better. But yes, that equates to the what we bought him for. It's slightly more than what we bought him for. So it would have been. And when we have a replacement already there in Tino, the future, like what are you going to get for me? What are you going to get for a Trippier? You're going to get him this season, and you're going to get next season. He'll be sharing the responsibility on the right hand side with Tino. So it would be, I would have taken the money and invested it elsewhere in the squad. But there might be a few more that we'll talk about that where we might get money in, and maybe then I don't know, the obvious things that we said, talk about his leadership and his set pieces and stuff like that. We'd miss all those, and like you love him, but we have to also move on. So I would have accepted it, I think, but hoping for a third bid.
Yeah, were you the same as Daz, Chris, with regards to the 50 million euro bid being rejected? Because it had been said that actually at that point that if a bid of 15 million euros came in, ultimately 13 million pound, pretty much around the similar fee that we signed in for, that they would look to maybe recoup that. Were you surprised when it was rejected?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I would have accepted it personally. But the only way that I wouldn't have accepted it is if I thought that I could eke a few more pounds. And I'm wondering whether that's what the club are trying to do. Because if they're pretty confident that Bayern seem really keen on Kieran Trippier, and Kieran Trippier is keen on the deal, I believe that that's something that can still happen. I think it's an interesting one, because Kieran Trippier is a player that we probably never envisaged losing. We probably don't want to lose, and I get that. But then at the same time, you've got to look at that kind of fee for the 33-year-olds who we've already replaced. I know we keep talking about it, boys, but it is fact. And the change in position or the change in stance, and we're purely basing this off the journalists. We don't know anything else. We can only go by what the journalists are saying or what we're hearing. And like you said, Pete, it certainly sounded like if we could recoup our money for Kieran Trippier, we paid roughly 12 million for him. If we can get 12, 13 million off buying, you would think we'd accept it. Now, there's a few reasons as to why I believe that is. And it's either that Newcastle think they can get more money. It's either that Newcastle now believe that they're very close to selling somebody else and they don't need the money. Or it's the fact that Newcastle believe they cannot let Kieran Trippier go. And I don't think it's... They always say, don't they, there's no smoke without fire. And for me, there's no way that Bayern would potentially make 2 bids for Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier would allegedly go over to Germany to have talks. There's no way all that would happen if there wasn't interested parties, i.e. Kieran Trippier was interested in the move, Newcastle were interested in selling him. Bayern Munich wouldn't keep bidding and bidding and bidding. So to me, I think Newcastle are trying to get a little bit extra. Because let's be honest, boys, if we can get 15, 16, 17 million out of Bayern Munich for Kieran Trippier, that's fantastic business. It's fantastic business. And regardless of anybody else who may be going out, which I know we'll probably touch on, it will come to a point where they go, do you know what? I think that offer's too good to reject. None of us want to see Kieran Trippier go. It's not like we're all saying, let's get rid, we don't need him or we don't want him. But you have to sit up and take note when somebody bids a lot of money for a player who's, coming to in the twilight years of his footballing career. And it's a lot of money for us at the moment because it obviously opens doors and enables us to go and spend money elsewhere in the squad, which is much needed.
No, I think that's a really good point. And you've touched on a couple of things that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit more. Is that, you mentioned about the fact that is there another player that they're more inclined to think that they're going to get some money for, or certainly more money for? Is there a deal already in place with another player that we're looking to sell? And it's really interesting because Luke Edwards comes back and says not long after this, I'm fully expecting there to be a third very public bid before the close of the window. And if they get above 20 million, he reckons that they've got a chance. Whereas, at that point, it was that Kieran Trippier is not for sale. Bayern Munich are trying to obviously flex their big club abilities with that particular second bid. Kieran Trippier said he wants to stay, but like you've said, no smoke without fire from that perspective. I think there's a couple of things there. I think you're right in that Miguel Aliron, and we'll talk about that, could well be an alternative, as could Wilson or maybe one other. But I think as well as that, Newcastle United know Bayern Munich's situation. Now, we mentioned it on Sunday, and I mentioned it again. Bayern Munich don't have a right back available to play. So we know that Bayern Munich are desperate. They need to get somebody in because they've got their team, their defense is completely imbalanced at the moment. But they also know that their alternative to Kieran Trippier is Nord Mukiele from PSG. And although they've been locked in talks with him, PSG are even more reluctant to let him go as we are for Kieran Trippier. So they know that Bayern Munich are desperate. Now, I would probably take Kieran Trippier over Mukiele, although he's a younger player, because you're getting the instant quality coming into the team. Newcastle United know this. They're not stupid. They're not stupid. And as you said, and I agree, they're trying to eke as much money out of Bayern Munich. They're saying, if you really want him, pay the money. We said 15 million euros. You put it up front. Okay, let's go 17. Can you go 17? Why not 20? Or let's go 17 and a half with the extra 2.5 if you win the Bundesliga. Let's put that on there. I'm not saying this is happening, but you can see that this is probably maybe Newcastle's tactic, and say, how much can you really give us? What have you got there? Do you really want this player? And they're putting them on because Newcastle United, remember, they don't need to sell Kieran Trippier. They don't need to. So if they're going to, they need to financially benefit from this. Sorry, that's gone.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask you on the PSG player, how much are PSG looking for that chap?
Well, the initial talks with them was for a loan with an obligation. So it very much went the same way as the Kieran Trippier. Now, in terms of their bid, I don't actually know how much they've bid for, or even if there's a bid there. Trippier and Bayern Munich is a lot further down the road than Miguel, but he was the initial target before Trippier became an option. So they obviously want him just as much as they want Trippier. But Trippier's further down the road here. I think that Bayern Munich feel that they can get a deal with Newcastle for Kieran Trippier more than Miguel, and as well as that, I think Newcastle know that too. And so as the window starts to dwindle down, Bayern Munich are going to panic and they're going to end up paying whatever they need to get that player in, because you don't get a player of Trippier's quality done easily. So that's kind of where I'm at with regards to that Trippier sort of situation, and that's kind of where it is at this moment in time. The second bid's gone in, it's been rejected. We know that there's talk in the background going on because it's clear the fact that there's a second bid gone in. They're clearly talking. But we also know that Bayern Munich are looking at that Miguel situation and going, can this deal be done? So that's kind of the picture as we see it with Kieran Trippier. But Daz, I don't know if you're able to see it. Like, what's the poll telling us now with regards to Kieran Trippier?
Yeah,
how's it looking?
I'll check that there, but just link into that, Pete, while I'm checking that out. It just shows you then that Newcastle aren't really in the danger zone in regards to FFP, PSR, because they would have just taken that bid there today. So it kind of rules out that theory that has been floating around as well. Give me a sec now, and I'll be able to tell you. No, it's gone.
We need a drum.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you. I can't see it. I'll have to go online and see.
I was going to say we needed a drum roll, but we'll come back to that in a second. There we go. If only we had the voting system up and running. But what we'll do, we'll have a look at that later, and we'll see what the.
I have it. It's 78% say yes, and 16% say no, and there are 6% are on the fence with Keith Roll.
Interesting. So yeah, that's painting a nice picture. If you haven't gone onto the poll, make sure you do so. That's for sure. And look, boys, I'll ask you before we move on. Do you expect a third bid, Chris? Do you expect a third bid to come in for Kieran Trippier before the week's out?
Yes, I do think there will be another bid for Kieran Trippier. I thought you were going to ask me whether he's going to move or not, because that one I'm not so sure on. But I do think a fair bid will come in, and maybe this is when we pull the trigger and say yes. Who knows? Maybe Newcastle are going to highball them and go, right, we want 25 million, and then if Bayern come back and go, okay, we'll give you 19 million, and we just go, yeah, great, do it. Because as I say, you can't. For me, I would have took 13 million. I would have, because I think it's good business sense. But the only time, as I say, I know they say he's not for sale, but the only time that you wouldn't accept it is if you think, you know what, these need this, these really want this, and you kind of you're testing the water. You kind of going a little bit more, and I do feel, my gut feeling is telling me that's where we are. That's where we are with this deal. I think there's too much noise around it, and there's too much insistence that he's not for sale for there not to be anything in it. So for me, I think I do think Bayern will come back in, and again, it wouldn't surprise me if they said a deal was accepted, and all of a sudden, fast forward, deal just gets done like that. Wouldn't surprise me.
Daz, what do you think? Third bid coming in? Are you still? Are you with that mindset that you think? That Trippier may well leave the club this month?
I think they will come back. Look what they did with Kane. They kept going back. It was the saga back and over. So I think they will come back. And I think like what Chris is saying there, that they may have to meet them halfway to get a deal done. But I like this one from Will. He says, "You're not selling apples in the Moroccan market, Pete. You're selling trips with your." you're playing how it would go down. But love that. But yeah, I think they'll come back. But whether we'll sell or not, I don't know. It may depend on the other deals we get done, and also maybe they don't want to sell unless they know for sure we're getting someone in. So let's see.
I'll tell you where I am. Will, I'm in the German market. That's where I am. Try to get the deal done, fella. Try to get the deal done. But no, it's going to be an interesting one. I can't imagine this team this season without Kieran Trippier in it. However, if it means that we can go on and strengthen the team before the window's out, then I would take it. I'd take that deal. Anywhere from 17 million euros up, I'd be accepting that deal and saying to Kieran Trippier, thank you for your service. On you go. We put our full backing into Tino Livramento, and we move forward. That's what I would do. I'm calm with Kieran Trippier leaving. I wasn't when it first broke Friday into Saturday. I am now. Doesn't mean that I don't love and respect what he's done. I think he's a fantastic player, but I'm quite calm with him leaving if it means we bring the players in. But
don't you think it's mad, Pete? That's where we are at the minute. Because, like, I said this the other day, and I think you boys feel exactly the same way. It's like how calm and collected we are when we're like, yeah, probably the best right back we've ever seen in our time being Newcastle fans. But yeah, we'd let him go. But it's just because of the position that we're in. If FFP wasn't a thing, we wouldn't entertain selling Kieran Trippier. But you've got to see the bigger picture, and you've got. I keep banging on about it. You've got to look at that age. You've got. He is not a great age. He is not a great age, and you've got
33, 34. Tino, if we don't sell him by the summer, we get nothing for him at all. Yeah. So it's being ruthless. Back to the New Year's resolution. We have to be ruthless.
It is.
Yeah. And this club certainly being ruthless, that's for sure. Because not only is Trippier potentially in the market, a new player popped up on the scene the other day, and friend of the channel, Ben Jacobs, broke the news. Al-Shabaab of the Saudi Pro League had apparently provisionally had an agreement with Miguel Aliron, and that Miguel Aliron was understandably open to the move, but nothing was done at this point. Lots of different conversations happening. Talks over possible move for Miguel Aliron, says Luke Edwards, and that those talks were ongoing. The interest was genuine. People questioned whether it was genuine or not, but that was the case. What was interesting from that is that another friend of the channel, Liam Kennedy of Newcastle World, mentioned that actually Al-Shabaab wasn't the only team that was involved in this bidding war, because Al Hilal had also been interested, and we know more than anything that Alan St. Maximin went there in the summer. And so there was talk of a kind of a reuniting of two Newcastle United players. But that was continued on. Now, what was interesting is Keith Downey came on and had his opinion. And at the bottom there, he mentioned something that was important. That Almiron is the most likely to leave of all of the Newcastle United players that have been linked over recent days. And I think that was really, really important. Craig Hope had mentioned something similar and said they haven't, unlike Trippier and Wilson, Almiron hasn't been told no, he's definitely not leaving, which set tongues wagging. And obviously Sky Sports have mentioned it as well, that Miguel Aliron is the most likely to leave the club before the end of the window. As well as that, this evening, Dom Skurs said something similar, would be open to selling Miguel Aliron. Both teams are interested. Boys, what are your thoughts on Miguel Aliron and this move to Saudi? Because it's not the first time we've had this conversation about Miggy. Daz, Miguel Aliron, what are you thinking at this stage now?
Okay, Miguel Aliron. Yeah, it took him a while before he got settled in with Eddie. Really, I guess he was on the bench for a long time. Then he had that wonder season. He's never going to have a season like that again. And he was absolutely unreal last season. Rode him off so many times that he come back and he proved me wrong. And delighted he did. But he's 29, so he's heading towards 30. He's we should have probably cashed in him in the summer when his value probably would be the highest. That we said that as well during the summer. But I would sell him now. And if we're getting, I know the figure was around 20 that was quoted at the start, but yeah, if we can get something like 30 from him, or if we can start a little bidding more there between Saudi clubs, that'd be lovely. I like that. But yeah, I would like to see him go. And like nothing against him, but again, we have to think of the future. He does have a good relationship with Trippier, but if both of them were to go, that's gone as well. And look at this. We're going to get on to who we'd like to see replacing him in different discussions as well. And also, I know one option, I was just thinking of this today, one option what we have ruled out before, and I know there is no recall option, but Menta, who was can play on the right wing as well. He's if something could be done with Feyenoord to bring him back as a kind of cover as well. Also, Gordon can go out on the right, but Barnes on the left. So even though we need someone there anyway, a different kind of option. But yeah, recoup the money. Cash out on Miggy now is what I say. But get a good deal from Saudi.
Chris, Miguel Aliron, if he was to be sold, would you be sad to see him leave the club?
I mean, I'll tell you my thoughts. Yeah, I can't lie. I've always I love Miguel Aliron, and I've been one of his biggest kind of protectors over the past few years. Like he's everything you'd want in a footballer in terms of like his work rate and his work ethic. Like he's brilliant, and he runs himself into the ground. He puts 110% in, but unfortunately, he has certain flaws to his game, and we all know that as Newcastle United fans. And you can love someone very, very dearly, as I have done with other players who I won't name. Love someone very, very dearly, but when in the predicament that we're in, and when you start talking money like 20, 25, 30 million, that love has to stop for me. Because if we sold Miguel Aliron for north of 20 million, that's potentially 2 40, 50 million pound players elsewhere. And that we've spoken, haven't we, boys? And I know we're going to do a squad game 3, so keep a lookout for that. But I know we're going to do a squad game, and we all know as Newcastle United fans that going forward we need to upgrade that right wing position, which Miguel Aliron currently occupies. I'd love Miguel Aliron to stay in the squad, and if money was no option, I'd probably say, do you know what, keep hold of him, because great player to bring on. He gives you legs, he gives you energy. He's always got a smile on his face. You won't find anyone harder working than him. But there's an elephant in the room, and that's the fact that we play him at right wing and he can't use his right foot. And long term, that's just not feasible. That's not possible. We need, if we want to realistically challenge, the top 4, top 6 in the coming years, we need to upgrade that position. We've already upgraded the left-hand side, bringing in the likes of Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon for Alan St-Maximin, who divided the fan base. We need to do the same on the right-hand side, because at the moment we've got Miguel Aliron and Jacob Murphy, and I think it's fair to say that despite us loving both of them very, very much, we can upgrade both of them, and we need to upgrade both of them. And if you're talking, as I say, north of 20 million, you've got to take interest. Yes, at the moment we've only got one fit right winger, but that's not to say that we can't bring in a replacement or try and make do find some way of making do until the summer, and then we go out and we get the proper replacement. But Miguel Aliron for north of 20 million when we bought him for 16 million rising to 20 is fantastic business, as Daz says. He's 29 years old. He's probably hit the pinnacle of his career. He's not going to leave Newcastle and go to a bigger club, and he probably knows that. But this is an opportunity for him to go and continue playing football, probably in a hell of a salary if he goes to Saudi Arabia, and he'd go with our best wishes. Like, he provided us with some fantastic moments last season and in previous seasons, and we'll all thank him for his time, same as we will with Kieran Trippier. But where we are now as a football club, we need, in order to progress and in order to build our squad, we need, unfortunately, to sell players that maybe some of us don't want to sell, but ultimately that's what's got to happen. And we've got jewels in the crown. I probably don't need to name who they are, but we all know who they are. And they're the untouchables. They're the ones you can't let go. And unfortunately, Miguel Aliron is not one of those players. So for me, it's fair game. And if we get good money for Miguel Aliron, I'm all for it.
Just to come in there, I also, you kind of beat me to it, Chris. But yeah, like I'm sure people are listening to us and going, because I'm going to go say sell for every player you ask me here, Pete. Unless you ask me 5 I won't touch, because the 5 I won't touch are Bruno, Botman, Isak, Gordon, and Tino. They're the 5 I won't touch. But we have to trade. It's all part of being a football club. We're just not used to it. And I know there's some people that like are disgraced that we're having to sell players, or like they've been on the journey with us, and we thank them for what they've done. But we have to move on. That's what the title of the show is, Phase 2. We have to start thinking now of Phase 2. Like we're not going to get in the Champions League next year. But so is Trips going to be in the Champions League with us in 3 years' time when we're back there? No, we have to think of the future and stick with the players that are going to get us there to the next stage and the next level. So, sorry, over to you, Pete.
Yeah, I just think we have to have quality and substance over kind of work rate, and this is part of our transition. So we built, or Eddie Howe built his team on hard work and running, to outwork the opposition. But if we want to progress and be the team that we want to be, we're going to have alternatives to that. And it was the same conversation that we had for a player that didn't come to Newcastle United, but we had that conversation for 8 months going around, and it was about James Maddison. And there was people that said, yep, James Maddison is the guy, he's the one, get him in because his quality is great. But there was also people that questioned, oh, but he doesn't run, he doesn't track back, he's not defensive minded. And it's like, well, okay, we can't have everybody that just runs all day, because then where are you going to put the ball in the net, and where are you going to have that elite level quality? And we know that, and you boys have said it, how Miguel Aliron works and runs his socks off. He runs himself into the ground. He's always fit, always ready to work for the team. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you need the final ball. And we have seen this season more than ever, he's had opportunities and he's not put them away. And he's not had that final level of quality that we need. And if we're going to be the team that we want, we need to get someone that can be, or someone that has the potential to not only do that, but do that at the absolute top level. And unfortunately, Miguel Aliron, 31 years old, I don't believe we're going to see that from him. So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. For me, it's a case of how much do you get for him? Now, we talked about between ourselves and on the channel before, how much would you sell for, how much would you get for Miguel Aliron? There's been lots of rumors around of how much the fee's been negotiated, nothing really confirmed, but I think we can get, or should be looking at around sort of the 30 million mark. I think that would be more than fair for Miguel Aliron to come in. But it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on how much you think Miguel Aliron is worth. I know we've touched on it before, but now we think that it could potentially happen. What do you think is a fair price for Almiron, Chris?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Pete. I think you see, I keep thinking about the St. Maximin deal because I think and I still cannot believe the St. Maximin deal caused uproar with opposition fans, and they were going, "How did they get 20 million for St. Maximin when like he was worth 20 million all day long?" For me, the minimum I would want for Miguel Aliron's 20. Realistically, I think we should be asking for 25. But like you, I'm hoping we get 30. But I wouldn't go below 20. I think realistically we'll probably get 25. And I would be happy with that amount. We could try and push for 30. I'm not saying that he's not worth 30 in today's market, but especially given, let's be honest, if we'd have sold Miguel Aliron at the end of last season, which would have been crazy to be fair, because he had a really good season and we were going into a Champions League season, 30 million would have been the bare minimum, because everyone would have looked back at the highlights of last season and gone, "Now he was fantastic." This season, not so much, obviously due to injury and probably the team not being in form and stuff like that. But I think minimum 20, but I'd like 25 million. I think we could get 25 million for Miguel Aliron.
Have you the same mindset, Daz? 20 to 25 million?
Well, I just see a kind of debate in the chat here that does Atlanta have a sell-on clause or not. There's a mixed opinions there. But 25, but if they were to offer 50, I'd take it.
They offer 50, did you say?
Yeah, Saudi bidding more.
Well, I heard.
Did you not see him last season? He was unreal. That
But
guy,
you know
Miguel
what?
Aliron. Just cut out the bits where he missed his using his right foot, and don't show him the PSG game. And you're sorted.
But you made a really good point, Daz. And I'm not saying we're going to get 50 million for him. I think everyone would love that. But you made a point about his last season performance. That should, in my opinion, fall into that conversation. You get so many players that have a great season one season, don't play well the next, and then all of a sudden you've got then a conversation about, oh yeah, but they're worth this because they did this last season. Well, why doesn't that rule still apply for Miguel Aliron? Miguel Aliron scored double figures last season, and he had a superb run where he had all the top teams talking about him. Yes, he's not done the same this season, but if we're looking for value, how can the Premier League or how can anyone say that 30 million isn't fair market value for Miguel Aliron that helped take his team to Champions League football last season? If we'd have sold him in the summer, I think we could have probably got more for him because he was coming off the back of such a good season. But actually, for me, I think 30 million is more than viable when you have the likes, and I've said it before, the likes of Koulibaly, Edouard Mendy, and various other players that have gone to play in the Saudi League and have commanded huge fees that were nowhere near their capability, and they've managed to get them. So if they can get them, why not Miguel Aliron? And at this point, I don't care about people going mad about it. There's already people saying that it's not fair in Saudi and all the rest of it. I don't care. When you've had 6 teams try and leave English football to go and create their own league and go F you to the Premier League and English football, right? Why should we care about our Saudi and Newcastle United links when 6 teams were trying to ruin football? Now, what's interesting about it is those 6 teams are the ones that are moaning about it. Why? Is because they can't do it themselves. So for me, 30 million, more than fair.
That's the realistic offer, Pete. 30 million.
And I think Al Ahly are more likely to pay that because they're a PIF owned club. That for me is the more likely club to go to because they've got the money behind them. Al Shabab, I'm not sure what their finances are like. I imagine they've got a little bit of money. It'd probably be their main signing. But I just think him going to play with Alan St. Maximin would be a nice touch going over there. And I think it would be a better situation for him to go to if he's going to a club. But I think it's gonna be an interesting one, boys. It's gonna be a real interesting one. Which tells me, in terms of the next step, who do we get to replace him? Well, fear not, because plans are supposedly already afoot. And what's been talked about is very much with Miguel Aliron in negotiations to leave. Luke Edwards of the Telegraph has highlighted that Morgan Gibbs-White has been scouted extensively by Newcastle United as a possible option to replace Miguel Aliron if he is sold to Saudi Arabia this month. And we love a pre-signing photo.
Yeah.
So he's already kitted up. Already looks good in black and white. And I don't know why that's come up there. Morgan Gibbs-White is the player that's been highlighted to take over potentially if Miguel Aliron leaves the club. Now, what do you make of this, boys? Now, we know Morgan Gibbs-White. We talked about him in the summer as a player, but would that be the signing that you would go for if we had the money generated from a Miguel Aliron signing? Chris, what are your thoughts when that deal or that potential deal broke out as a rumor the other day?
Mate, I was excited. I can see in the chat there's a few people who aren't overly convinced on Morgan Gibbs-White, but from what I've seen, I think he looks brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We've spoken about him on the channel before, haven't we? And I think it was you that brought his name up first, Pete. And it was following the England under-21 tournament where him and Anthony Gordon just ripped it up. And Morgan Gibbs-White brings something to Newcastle that we don't currently have. To me, he's and you'll love this, Pete. He's probably the Maddison we never got. He's a player who, he can play either right wing. He can either play. I think he's actually played in a false nine before. Not that I'd recommend that, but he can play multiple positions, and he can also play that number 8 position in the midfield. And from what I've seen of Morgan Gibbs-White, he's a powerful runner. Technically, he's brilliant. He's fantastic on the ball. He's got great vision, so he can pick a pass. He's strong. He's committed. He's determined. Do you know what? He's got that little bit of. He's got that nasty streak in him. And that I think in a footballer, that's brilliant. That's what you need. You need someone who's got that, that extra hunger, desire. And for me, I genuinely think Morgan Gibbs-White is a perfect signing for Newcastle United. And I think Eddie Howe would love to work with him. Not just the fact that he's Premier League experienced and English, but also the fact that from a technical point of view, he just gives us something we don't have. He's like a vastly upgraded version of Sean Longstaff to me. He can get up and down the pitch. And do you know something else as well, which appeals to me even more about him, is the fact that I think he has a good reputation. I think he was at Wolves, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden he got this big move to Nottingham Forest, and everyone was a bit like, "Oh, I wonder why he's gone there." It kind of felt like some would argue it was a sideways step, some would argue it was a downward step. But he didn't let that big price tag worry him, and he's like the talisman of Nottingham Forest, and I think he's just waiting now for this big move. And if Newcastle United come in for him, this could be his big move, and I think he takes it with both hands, and he could become a fantastic player for us. I think he's 22 years old, so plenty of room for growth, development. And his value, similar to other players that we've signed, like Anthony Gordon, like Isaac, like Bruno, I think his value could potentially double after we've signed him, because if he puts in performances similar to what he's done at Forest, and he's got far better players in and around him, I think he could tear it up for Newcastle. I genuinely think he could tear it up for Newcastle. So I was really excited when I heard the rumour. The price will be interesting, but again, to throw another curveball before you go to Daz, what I also find interesting about this deal is that there's 2 clubs who are currently under a little bit of scrutiny from the Premier League over their FFP, and one of them happens to be Nottingham Forest. So that's why this deal doesn't come as much as a shock to me. But yeah, to summarise, to wrap it up, go get Morgan Gibbs-White. I haven't been this excited about a signing as I was for Paqueta and Maddison. So I genuinely hope that we are in for them, and I hope we go and get them.
That's Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah, I'm going to link back to Chris in a second, and I'm also going to link back to you, Pete, because I have a question for you, and I wanted Chris to bring up what he's put in our chat as well. But yeah, no, I'd love to see him rocking up at Newcastle. The first time I remember us talking about him was when it was Chris that mentioned it, and it was when he moved to Notts Forest originally. That's what I remember, and it was the talks about the fee at the time, which I think people having the chat or something like up to 45 million it was or something like that. Yeah, he's really come good this season. He's been standout this season. And what he did against Man United, I love that as well. So it's a yes for me and Morgan Gibbs-White. Let him do that in a Newcastle shirt against Man United and everyone else. But my question, my link back to Chris, I'll give it both options, and you can think about your answers. So I'm going to go to Chris and to tell us about what Notts Forest are doing in the transfer market. Are they looking to replace someone? Who knows? I'll get Chris to comment on that. And my question to you, Pete, and you can think about this. Would you rather Morgan Gibbs-White over James Maddison? That is the question I have for you, Pete. So you have time to think about that one. Chris, tell us what happened. Is it happening on Twitter as well?
Yes. I don't know whether the picture was loaded up or not, but in case it's not, I can obviously talk about it. It's absolutely fine. But I think it was about an hour and a half ago. I think it was David Ornstein, who's really well-respected journalist, and he said earlier on, well, as I say, about an hour and a half ago, saying that Nottingham Forest are keenly looking to try and wrap up a loan deal for Reina. Now, Reina is the central midfielder for Borussia Dortmund. Very, very talented player. I think he's the son of Claudio Reina. I could be wrong saying that. I think he is. Yeah. So yeah, really, really talented lad, and he's a player we've looked at previously, actually. But I do actually think he plays in a very similar position to Morgan Gibbs-White, and I think he's a similar player. You know, technically very, very good, can play in that number 8 role, and it just got me interested because I thought, hang on, are they trying to get a like for like here? That apparently, according to David Ornstein, the offer was a loan deal with the option of a permanent deal. And I thought, well, is that? And you probably saw this. Anyone who follows me on Twitter probably saw me speculating that our Forest trying to plug a gap or an impending gap. So yeah, that got me excited because I thought, hang on, is it? Well, it could be me putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 7, as someone pointed out to me, or it could be that I may have spotted something there. But yeah, I hope that there's a possibility that Forest are trying to backfill for the potential sale of Morgan Gibbs-White. And it would make sense because if Forest are in the financial difficulty that they are seemingly in due to the charge by the Premier League, it would make sense to maybe look at where some saleable assets are, and perhaps they're looking towards Morgan Gibbs-White. Who knows? And maybe Newcastle have sounded them out. But that's just my theory. That's just me putting 2 and 2 together, maybe getting too excited, but it certainly raised my suspicions, should I say.
Pete,
has he thought about it?
He's pretending to be paused so he doesn't have to answer the Maddison question, I think. He's really contemplating.
He's really thinking. He's really thinking.
While Pete's thinking, let's take a question or two from the chat. Right, yeah, there was one good one here. Well, there's plenty of good ones because we've got 22 items starred, but there's one I wanted to go to from Tony. No, that's the wrong one. And here, this is it here. Yeah. I've seen something earlier that said we have the 3rd oldest squad in the league. Surely shipping players like Trips needs to be done. And Life Goals adds to that as well. It says players 29 plus. So you've got Pope, Gillespie, Dubs, Karius, Trips, Kraft, Lascelles, Shar, Byrne, Richie, Dummett, Fraser, Henrik, Wilson, Miggy, Hayden, old squad needs youthful injection. Can't argue with that, and that's the route I'd go with as well. But your thoughts there, Chris, on our aging squad?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't when I first seen it. Not that I questioned how true that was. It did surprise me. It took me back. I was a bit like, oh, I didn't think our squad was that old. But then I'm probably looking at our starting 11, and then obviously when I look through those names, you know, we've got there obviously Nick Pope, we've got Trippier, we've got Fabian Schär, Dan Burn. But there's a lot of players in there, obviously Callum Wilson, Miguel Aliron, but there's a lot of players in there who technically aren't really part of the squad, or they certainly don't get anywhere near the 11 anyway. But do you know what? Life goals, it's right. And, you know, Tony from before, we're very much due a squad overhaul. We've been saying it for a while, and I do believe, and that's why I love the title of this show, Daz. I do believe we are approaching phase 2, and I think that getting rid of the vast majority of those players will be the start of it. And you know, we've already seen, haven't we? And I don't want to do a spoiler because I know we're going to get to something a bit later. But we're certainly looking towards bringing a bit more youth into the squad. We've seen that this season with, you know, Louis Miley alone, Anthony Gordon, really young player, Alexander Isak, Sven Botman. These are all lads who are early 20s, even Bruno, who's probably one of our, you know, more experienced kind of players. I think Bruno's only 26, 27. So
yeah, 26, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, that's that. This squad is full of players who really should be in the Championship or even lower, to be fair. And the fact that they're still on the books is incredible. But I know that this ownership, they were aware that a big squad overhaul needed to be done. And unfortunately, due to the FFP restrictions, we've had to take our time in offloading certain players from this squad. But a lot of those players are coming to an end. We've recently got rid of Javier Manquillo. So there's the first one out the door. But, you know, the likes there of Isaac Hayden, Jeff Hendrick, Ryan Fraser, Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie, possibly Lovius Karius, maybe Mark Gillespie. These are going to be players who I would be surprised if they were in the squad next season. So I think the average age could well come down. But yeah, I didn't realise it was the third oldest, I've got to admit.
Yeah, it's a lot of players there. Another question here from Stu. Stu says, simple one. Will we sign anyone that will challenge for a first team place before the end of the window? I think yes, and I think that's why I'm suggesting to sell some of the players that are we've got bids in for, so that will allow us to go buy someone that will fit. There's no point buying a squad player. It's fine to buy a young player for development, like we're going to talk about it in a while as well. I know a lot of the chatters have been talking about, but yeah, we need to sign someone that'll get into that first team.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we've been highlighting it, haven't we? In the since the start of the window, that really we could really do with a central midfielder, a number 6 position, a player to come in and hopefully relieve Bruno of those duties, but also kind of support us in the fact that we've got Joe Linton out potentially till May, so basically the rest of the season. Elliot Anderson's not going to be back till February, March. Sandro Tonali's not going to be back till next season. Joe Willock's still out. And we're currently doing our best and trying to hang in there with Sean Longstaff, Bruno Gomes, and who's the other centre? Oh, and Louis Miley, who really he's had a breakout season, but he's now playing consistently week in, week out for 90 minutes, and we need to relieve that pressure. And not just the central midfield position, Daz. We regardless of what happens with Miguel Aliron, we've all said that Miguel Aliron needs a little bit of competition, and Jacob Murphy again. You know, we've heard that he's round the corner, but we've kind of been hearing that for the last few weeks. And how long do we wait, or do we need to bring someone in to kind of start challenging that position? Because Miguel Aliron at the moment, he's in the same position as Louis Miley in that he knows he's playing right wing most weeks, and there's no competition there. There's no opportunity to rest him. So we need to start looking at these positions and thinking, do you know what? Even if it's a temporary measure, just bring in a loan. But I do firmly believe that we will bring in at least, I think we'll bring in at least 2, if I'm honest. And I would expect that both those players, whoever they are, will at least be challenging, as said in the question, at least challenging the first team, if not walking into the first team.
Cool. Just want to. I said 5 players earlier that I wouldn't touch. I want to add a 6th one. Miley, I don't want him touched either. I should have had him in my list. And just want to answer Ian's question. He says you'd sell Pope, Daz. No, I wouldn't sell Pope. But I would like a new keeper in the summer and someone to challenge Pope. But if we got a massive offer for Pope, I'd consider it. Because we need to bring in younger players. Link back to the question from Tony and the information from Life Goals.
This is the thing, Daz. Like, Nick Pope's a really good goalkeeper. I'm not saying he's not a good goalkeeper. He is. He's a really good goalkeeper. But for me, he's not a top 4 goalkeeper. If we were to sell Nick Pope tomorrow, would any of the top 4, even top 6 clubs come in for Nick Pope? Probably not. And that's the problem. You know, look at Liverpool, look at Man City with Ederson, Alisson, top goalkeepers, and that's what we need. And that's no offense to Nick Pope, but you know, we've got to aspire to be as best we can. And Nick Pope is a good goalie, and I'd like to keep Nick Pope at the club. But if someone came in, bearing in mind we bought him for 10 million, if someone came in and went, "Oh, we want Nick Pope, we'll give you 20 million," I think the club listen. I do, because Nick Pope would be a very, very good number 2. And you know, if we did bring in a new number 1 and Nick Pope was coming in as the understudy, I'd be very happy, because I do trust him between the sticks. But I think there's better, well-rounded goalkeepers out there. And if you want to be the best and you want to win trophies and you want to be in the top 4 and challenge for titles, I question whether Nick Pope's the right guy, if I'm honest.
Okay, if you're just joining us, make sure you smash that like button. Pete has just dipped off. I'm sure he'll be back on again with us shortly. But we'll just continue on with the questions for now. Sticking now that we were on the topic of Gibbs White, so let's continue in that vein. And Tony, I'm going to disagree with you here, Tony. Tony says Gibbs White at 50 million is a panic buy. He's not worth what you could get. That you should get worth from Bayer Leverkusen for that type of price. I don't think you get him for that price. For words. But your thoughts there, Chris?
Do you know what? Florian Wirtz is a fantastic player, and yeah, I agree with you, Daz. I think we'd be lucky to get him for 50 million, given the season that Leverkusen are having. I think Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen would be wanting a lot more money than 50 million for Florian Wirtz. But you see, I wouldn't describe him, Tony, as a panic buy, purely because I think if anything, he's quite a safe buy. You know, he's Premier League proven. He'd settle straight into the squad. He played in the under-21 championships with Anthony Gordon. I think he struck up a really good relationship with him. So I would expect I would expect Morgan Gibbs White to kind of settle in quite quickly into the team. So I wouldn't describe him as a panic buy, but I can see why you're saying that, you know, you'd look elsewhere for Florian Wirtz, who's a fantastic player.
He is.
As I say, I'm not sure that Xabi Alonso or Leverkusen would let him go for similar price to Morgan Gibbs White, because I don't believe they would.
Pete, while you were gone and you were off thinking about James Maddison, the numbers spiked up, and we've got to make sure you smash that like button. But we just got through a few questions, so carry on from where you were, Pete.
I have to say a big, massive thanks to Potts for that, because he's redirected a load of fans from his channel to
cheers, Potts.
So Potts, legend. And for those that are new to the channel, give us a subscribe, give us a like. We're talking all things Newcastle United. So get your questions in, even if you're not a fan of the club. Get your questions in right now and do the right thing. Sorry, Daz, what were you going to ask me? Apologies.
Yeah, no. Continue on from where you were. We were talking about Morgan Gibbs White. So where do we go next?
Yeah,
you didn't give your say on it.
I want the answer.
I didn't.
I
want the answer.
The storm killed me. Literally wiped out the whole house's Wi-Fi. No one had anything. So so apologies for that. But Morgan Gibbs White. Some people may not be excited about it, but I am. I think he's honestly, technically, I think he's superb. And he's been playing like top level football since he was like 18 years old. And he's only 22. He's got so much experience under his belt already for such a young player. I don't know what you boys have already said before. For one, really good friends with Anthony Gordon. Under 21s Euros, smashed it together. Together, they absolutely smashed it out the park and brought the trophy home. But even last season, he was making moves. He was showing that top level football. A player that's capable of playing at the top end of the Premier League. That's what we need right now. And he is capable of doing that. For me, personally, I think he's outgrown Nottingham Forest. I think he's outgrown the club. I think he's capable of playing at a high level. Some people question where he can play, where his strengths are. Morgan Gibbs-White has played, and very well, by the way, left wing, right wing, number 10, number 8. He's played in all those positions. And what do we know about Eddie Howe? Eddie Howe loves his versatile players. He loves his players that can play in more than one position. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Now, the big thing for me is what fee it will take to get him out the club. One thing I'll say is that he was rumoured to be a £45 million deal or something along those lines, something mad from Nottingham Forest. The initial payment was 25 million. So the initial payment isn't as high as what we expect to be. And actually, speak to a Nottingham Forest fan when I put a tweet out. I think it was after the Man United game. So Daz, you were like that when he absolutely destroyed Man United. I put a tweet out just saying like he's just a superb player. And there was a Forest player that came back and actually a Forest fan, that came back and said, I think it was a 25 million in initial, but I think in the increments they've only paid up to 30 million. So if you think of how much they've actually paid for him, they haven't paid the 45 million and beyond as what you think. So if you're then valuing him as a 30 million pound player, I don't see any reason why 50 million doesn't get him. And look, there's been a lot of other 50 million pound deals for players that are of less ability than he is. So there's no reason why we can't get him for 50 million. And I think 50 million would be more than enough. Now, what you made a really interesting point, Chris, with Reina from Dortmund, who is, as we've said, a very, very talented player himself. Could that mean potentially that there's a deal on the cards? Could quite well be. We know Newcastle United are looking for loans with obligations. If they don't need to sell or if they don't need to spend direct money this month, they won't. So for me, I would be looking at that as a potential. A Forest said that they will agree, providing that they get their replacement first. Who knows? Is the Miggy deal hinging on the fact that we're not going to let him go until we know we've got a player in the bank? And is it that there's a few cards that need to fall in order for this deal to happen? And so there's my kind of thoughts on where the deal might be going right now. Are we waiting for Forest to get their replacement before they release him, before we release Miggy? And that could be the maneuver there. And what I'll throw into the Trippier talk earlier on is that could Trippier be funding player 2? And that's the other conversation as well, because everyone's talking about this one player that we're going to get in and all the rest of it. Now, we know if Kieran Trippier does leave, as well as Miguel Aliron, we're not going to replace Trippier with a right back because we've already got 2. We've got Tino Livramento, who's excellent, one of the best young right backs in this country. Equally, and I've got to say, I thought Kraft was playing well for the minutes that he played. Yeah. Before he got that injury against Chelsea, we didn't need to bring Trippier on if Kraft doesn't get that gash in his leg, because I thought he was having a good game in the quarterfinals. I thought he was playing well. And unlucky to come off, but he was injured, so that's why. Now, he seems to be playing better under Eddie Howe. He seems to have more of an understanding. And I think Eddie Howe trusts him. So we've got 2 right backs there. So then does that beg the question that we need to replace Joe Linton? And that's the other conversation. Is that do we need to replace Joe Linton, or is there another position there that we need to fill in? That's where my cogs are going right now in terms of not just is it a Morgan Gibbs-White, but is it a Morgan Gibbs-White and one other, which is why those 2 deals with Trippier and and Miguel Aliron are the ones that are being talked about the most. What do you boys think about that? Is that a wild take, or is there? Would you say there's some kind of realism to that? I don't know. It's just what I'm thinking right now.
See, your take is that we would potentially bring in Morgan Gibbs-White and a replacement for J7.
Yeah,
like Onana.
Could well be. And these are the ones that we've been linked with. So we talked about on Sunday, Amadou Onana. We talked about the links there. Chris, you talked about him because you like I say, your family watch him more than we would, so they would know more about him. And he seems like, and we put the stats up, didn't we? He seems like he is very much in that Joe Linton mold. So I would say probably but he probably wouldn't be the only one that we'd be looking at.
I'd go on the two I'd look at is the two behind me here in the poster, because I think that we haven't even talked about Wilson yet again, but I think Wilson is an option to be sold. Look, it was first of all it was Atletico Madrid, then it was Milan. I'm sure there'll be others that may want to chance it with him as well. It's a good striker. It's hard to keep him fit. And if we were to sell a striker, then we definitely need a backup striker. And my idea here is we know Sesko is available for €50 million, 43 million pounds in the summer. Why not give there'll be a few suitors in the summer. So why not give them, say, 5 million more, bring him on loan? And he's barely getting a game now at Leipzig, so bring him in. That's who I bring in. I bring in the two on the poster, and Onana I would want as well, but I think Onana might be more a summer purchase more so than anything else.
What are you thinking, Chris? Is that a mad take that I've said, or are you of a kind of mindset of Daz? Daz mentioned Benjamin Sesko. We'll definitely talk about him in a second.
I don't know. I'm thinking three's not a crowd. I mean, why not have three? I don't know.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, threesome for Chris.
Yeah, well, yeah. Don't
listen, Lisa. Don't listen.
But no. I think it's interesting because, like you've just said, Pete. I completely agree. By the way, that this could be a bit of a domino effect. Like we said, didn't we, boys, at the start of this window? For me, as well, I'll say we said at the start of the window that we needed players because we do, but. When these players first started getting linked with leaving, like Trippier, Wilson, Almiron, we all said, well, there's no way they go without a replacement being lined up. There's no way. So it would make perfect sense. And this whole, I think it's the Trippier deal that's getting me because, you know, there's no smoke without fire, boys, and there's no way, in my opinion. And we saw it with Bayern. Everyone was going. My mate in work, he's a Tottenham fan, and he was going to me, no way, Kane's going, no way, Kane's going. And all I kept saying to him was, why do Bayern keep coming? Why do Bayern keep coming? Why would they keep bidding? And he's like, oh, they're just trying the hand. No, Tottenham won't let him leave. It just won't happen. And this is what's making me think that this Kieran Trippier deal is further down the line than we think. Like, I know some people have said that they know, or they've said that they know for a fact that Kieran Trippier went to Germany. He flew home early from his holiday and he went to Germany to have talks. We also know that Bayern Munich have now come in with a second offer and pending possibly a third offer. Bayern Munich, why are they being so keen to try and get Kieran Trippier? And is it Newcastle just going, just give us a day, give us a couple of days, or are we turning around to them and going, do you know what? You know, we're playing hardball, but come back, give us another offer, see what you think. You know, they're not saying. I know that the outwardly facing, they're going, no, not for sale, not for sale. But why would Bayern keep knocking on that door, keep asking that question? Is Kieran Trippier saying to them, they've said I can go, they just need to agree a fee? Because Kieran Trippier, there's no doubt that Kieran Trippier would be interested to move to Bayern. Who wouldn't be? Potential to win a Bundesliga, potential to win a Champions League and play for one of the best teams in Europe. Like, you can understand why you'd want to go. And Newcastle will be looking at it and going, do you know what? Like, we've got Tino Livramento, as you said, Pete. We've got Emil Kraft there as the backup. We've got Harrison Ashby, who's currently on loan. Someone in the chat said it. have a Snappspees on loan. He could come back in the summer. We've got enough options, and we're desperate. We're crying out for another central midfielder to potentially replace Joe Linton. We probably need another central midfielder to replace Sandro Tonali, given that he's not here either. So you could argue we need two, but let's not be greedy. So I'm thinking. We look at a central midfielder. We look at a right winger, which if Miguel Aliron goes, that's certainly what we'd have to bring in. And who knows, boys? We know what Newcastle are like. If anything, they're methodical. If anything, like they will have a list of players, and we saw it in the summer. We were bringing in players, and we were going, "Oh, this is great. We brought in a fantastic left back. We brought in a fantastic right back, but we didn't necessarily need them here and now. But if a deal's there to be done for the player that we've got high on our list, who knows? We could bring in. I'm not saying this, by the way, but we could bring in a left winger because we really want this particular player." And there's no reason why, that's not a possibility, not necessarily the left winger, but I'm just giving you an example. If there's a player that the club really, really wants, then why would it not happen? Everyone keeps talking about the backup for Fabian Schär. We need a centre back. And who knows, we could be trying to strike a deal for the centre back. Could be a centre back, central midfielder, a right winger. Could be another central midfielder. This is the thing with Newcastle; you never quite know what's going on. But I do believe what you're saying, Pete, in that we're probably trying to box clever. We're waiting for moves to happen, like a big game of chess. We're waiting for other people to make their move, but we will before we do anything. I don't think it's going to get to the point where we sell 1, 2, possibly 3 players and go, "Oh shit, we need to sign someone now." That will already be in place, and it'll just be pulling the trigger on those deals.
How meticulous have we been as a kind of a scouting team with certain players? Like I just go back to, for example, Alexander Isak. Like how quickly we pulled the trigger on that deal, knowing like that, and it seems absolutely wild to me now that we weren't going to sign him because we thought Callum Wilson was going to be fit for a full season. Like that was never going to happen. It was never ever going to happen. And he gets injured. He gets in his injury, his hamstring injury. Thankfully for us, sounds horrible saying, because it allowed us to go right within 24 hours. Boom, there's the deal. There's the money. Alexander Isak, we want him. We took him, and we are very, very quick on that. Like it's interesting. When we watch the documentary, the Amazon documentary, you look at the conversation between the owners, and they were already of the mindset that Anthony Gordon was their guy, and it was just about how quickly they could get that deal done. How do we not know that those type of conversations that we watched on that documentary have already happened? They've already happened. It's in place, and we're just ready to pull the trigger. Because I tell you what, like we've got a week or so left of this window. These deals are going to have to move quickly. Okay, like especially if you're getting Trippier over to Germany and we're getting Miggy to Saudi, like literally in the next couple of days, 2-3 days max, you're going to have to see movement. Why? 2 reasons. 1, because the transfer window is ending. 2, we've got 2 big matches to play. We've got Fulham at the weekend, Saturday night, 7:00. Yeah. That's gone. That like literally in the last 3 or 4 days, that seems to have bypassed a lot of people. We've got 2 massive games, and then on Tuesday, we go to Villa Park.
No, don't stop, Pete.
Well,
because we're doing a watch-along.
We'll be watching it live, won't we? Hey, we'll be watching it live. Come and join us Saturday night. Watch us smash Fulham and hopefully into the next round of the cup. But this is another reason why. Like, can we really afford to be going into that game without a Trippier who's fit and ready to play, and without Miguel Aliron who would be fit and ready to play? Like, can we afford to really do that and kind of play around with, is a player going to be available? Are they not? Like, we need them to play. And look, I don't know. Maybe there's a reason behind this, but like, if I'm right in thinking, and I don't know if he played in the first round as well, but Morgan Gibbs-White didn't play against Blackpool. He didn't play against Blackpool. They said he was injured. So he might well be injured, or were they kind of saving him for that? And I don't know if he's played in the FA Cup already. He might have played in one in the in the first, because I think it was a replay. He might have played in the first game. I'm not sure, but that could be a reason as well. Like there's a lot of moving parts here that I think that sometimes we overlook because we're just looking at, are they going to sign, are they not? But we need to make sure we've got the strongest squad available on Saturday ready to play. So is it the case that in this next day or two these deals are going to get started to be moved for players to come in? But it's interesting, boys, because Chris, you mentioned Harrison Ashby?
Harrison Ashby, I did.
Yeah. Well, maybe we look at another Harrison. You segued us quite nicely because the main man, David Ornstein, broke this news, and lots of others have broke it since. Exclusive: Newcastle reach an agreement with Man City to sign midfield talent Alfie Harrison for an undisclosed fee. The 18-year-old will undergo a medical in the coming days, and the reason why he's joined Newcastle, as it says there, is that he's been sold a vision of a clear path towards first team football. So look, the videos have been out there, people have seen them on socials. Daz, I'll come to you for your initial reaction to this. I don't know if you've seen the videos, because I know obviously with work and stuff it was quite tight, but just in general, your reaction to this news, because I have to be honest, he's been dubbed a super talent.
Yeah, and the chat is going mad about him as well. Look, I know all about him because I watched a video of him at 6 o'clock this evening, so I know everything that you can ask me, Anton. I know it, but no, great things have been said about him. So it'd be interesting to see. I just hope though that he does have a path towards the first team. Like, and it's not going to. The only one that's got through is Miley so far. Really, like Alex Murphy sitting on the bench, got very little minutes. So there needs to be a progression that they prove themselves, and then they can get in the first team. And Pete, I haven't forgotten. You haven't answered my question either. I'm going to be coming back to you on if I only need one name. Morgan Gibbs-White or Madison. You know, that's like, don't pretend your internet's going to be gone again or freeze like the last time.
Oh, you want an answer now?
I want an answer now.
Answer him now. Yeah, answer him now.
Oh, you can't do that to me, man.
I keep after you otherwise.
You know what? This is an absolute disgrace that you put me in this position, Dad. Look, I'm going to go with experience here. Madison's been there, done it. He's a super talent. Now, I'll tell you what, he's proven it this season at Tottenham. I know he's been injured, and that's probably his only downfall, really, as a player. I just think he's quality. But you know what? You mentioned it, Chris. Some others have put it in the chat as well. There's no reason why Morgan Gibbs-White can't be on that level. Yeah. Madison's 27 now. He's got years to go and prove that ability. And I would say at 22 years old, Morgan Gibbs-White is more ready to be that player than Madison was at 22 years old. I think he's more developed and ready because he's had more experience in first team football. But we'll see. Can't believe you made me answer that question, Daz. Can't believe it. Sorry. You wait.
Chris, your thoughts on the other Harrison lad?
Yeah. I mean, similar to you, Daz. Obviously, I was watching the videos of Harrison, Alfie Harrison, and I was very impressed with what I saw. But I can't begin to try and pretend that I know all about him. I mean, Life Goals has been putting some fantastic comments in there, so thank you for that, Life Goals. And anyone else in the chat, if you know anything about him, do let us know. But the one thing I will say is, when I was watching the video, he looked incredibly talented. He looks like a real player. But I am very wary that Dennis Wise was known for going on YouTube and finding fantastic players as well. But the reaction, this is always a good sign for me. The reaction of some of the City fans in the comments was pleasing to see. You know, that they were saying, "Oh, another player we've let slip through the net. Why are we selling him? Why is he leaving? Real prospect, blah blah blah." So to me, when you see a little bit of fume as we saw when we signed Lewis Hall from Chelsea, from the Chelsea fans. I'd rather that than fans going, oh no, you can have him. And we saw, to be fair, we saw similar with Harrison Ashby when we signed him, because all the West Ham fans were up in arms about it. So any young players that you sign and the fans of their clubs are very upset about him leaving, I'm excited for. And from what I've seen of him, he looks like a pretty decent player, doesn't he? And if we've offered him a potential for the path into the first team, why not? I mean, if he's a player who can kind of settle and adapt and grow in our reserve team, why can't he have an opportunity to try and break into that first team? But yeah, looks like a good signing, and from the reaction of the Manchester City fans, I'm pretty excited.
Definitely. Nobby Clark, I hope you're happy now.
Cheers, Nobby.
We've given you your
Took us a while.
As Alfie Harrison, and of course, thank you very much for your $4.99 super chat. That's for sure. But
he's asking there, do we think he's getting loaned out, Pete?
Well, this was a question for you boys. Is that if we don't get the replacement that we want in that midfield with the talent and the potential with him, is this someone that could potentially play first team football? The reason why I say that, I'm not saying he's going to, fire us up the league, but you just look at Louis Miley, who's 17 years old, and look at what he's doing in the Newcastle team. Alfie Harrison's 18. We've already proven that we'll give young talent a chance, and we'll give them an opportunity to play at that level. So, could that be an option for you to not necessarily bring him in and say you're the main guy, but if we say, for example, brought in another central midfielder and then incorporated him into the first team, he could maybe potentially supplement the rest of the midfield for the end of the season. Could that be a possibility? I'll throw that back to you, boys. Could that be a possibility?
Do we know how much he's coming in for? Has that information been disclosed?
Undisclosed.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I love about him, boys? And look, I don't know as much as any of you guys, and I've watched the same video that you guys have, so I don't know about him. But just looking at the videos, the use of both feet. His ability to travel with the ball and take on players and not be afraid to do that. He looks like he's got a little bit of pace about him. We know he can score goals. I think, 8 goals, 8 assists, something like that, something crazy like that in the Man City sort of youth setup. He is clearly a creator. And clearly looks to score goals. Be interesting to see what position he plays in, because there are a few people saying that he plays in that sort of number 10 role. Can he play in that midfield 3? That will be the conversation that would need to be had, and maybe develop his game a little bit. But he's incredibly exciting. I sent it straight to LB in the Race for Europe chat, and I just said, what do you know about him? And he said, typical LB. He was like, he's a decent player, but he's not one of our stars. Obviously, they've got Oscar Bob, who's come through their youth academy, who's one of their stars, who we know, unfortunately.
Sideshow.
Yeah, Sideshow, scoring the winner against us the other week. But that just shows the strength of their academy, the fact that they're able to churn out top players. And be able to kind of release him. But LB's already tweeted out and said, this is what Man City need to do, is that develop young players and sell them on and make a profit. It's that pure profit that Man City are doing, like Chelsea do, but probably on a bigger scale. Chelsea do it. Man City are doing that. And look, we're in a position where we can benefit from that, because we can offer him a direct route to the first team that Man City might not be able to. Same happened with Kieran Trippier. Same happened with Jadon Sancho and many others that have come out of the Man City Academy and still been very successful. So I've got high hopes for him. I really do. And if he's good enough, why not bring him into first team training and let him play with the boys, the main lads, and see how he fares. So I'm excited by this, boys. I'm not going to lie.
Bring it on. Let's see what he can do.
Definitely. Boys, I don't know if there's any questions, anything you want to throw out there. I mean, there's other things that we can talk about.
Yeah, no. Let's get to some of the questions. But we took some of them while you were hiding from the Madison question, Pete. Look, yeah, this one from Foxy. It's a good point here. He says, "Onana, Morgan Gibbs White. It's a similar situation to Barnes for me. All three are good players, no doubt. But really, we overpaid on Harvey Barnes from a relegated club. It's okay doing it once, but every time is bad business." Now, I'd say Foxy has his eye on a few South American players, Foxy, like I do as well. But yeah, no, he has a point here now as well. If we go crazy, and this is a factor as well that Eddie Howe likes Premier League proven players, or that's his preference, and especially mid-season, because it'll take anyone coming in a while to adjust. The only one that I suppose Bruno was an example of a foreign import at the time, and it still took it. He still had him on the sidelines for 2 or 3 games. But thoughts on that, lads?
You know what? One thing I'll say is that I think it's really harsh to say that we overpaid for Harvey Barnes. I think it's really harsh to put that on him right now because he's not really played for Newcastle United. I think he only started like 2 games before, in the second game he started, he got injured. So I think we're maybe jumping the gun on Harvey Barnes to a point. I think he needs time. Harvey Barnes has been a double figures goal scorer in many a season for Leicester. We didn't see it this season because he's not been fit, and there is rumours that he could well be in the squad on Saturday, which would be great. That'd be great to see him fit and available. And I still think there's a lot more to see from Harvey Barnes. Within the next year, fit and firing, fit up to full fitness. I think we'll see the best of him. But I do agree with the other notion with Foxy that buying those ready Premier League players that have got that experience, which is why we're going for them, it may well and could well backfire where there are cheaper alternatives and options available. And you talked about Leonardo, Benfica. You could talk about lots of others that have been linked with us and moved on. It is a risk. It is a risk there, but I have to be honest that you look at some of the vast majority of the signings that Eddie Howe's made, and he has gone for that tried and trusted, knows the Premier League, knows English football, has room to grow and develop as a player. And he's only really every so often plucked out the European talent. He's picked out some great ones. Bruno, Botman, Isaac. He has picked out some great ones, but he does always go for the bulk of his squad that tried and tested. And maybe that's something he needs to develop on. Maybe that's something he needs to evolve in. But at this moment in time, it certainly worked. It's certainly done the job because those players who have come in, like Gordon, has done really, really well.
Chris, you want to add there?
I'd just say that I agree with what Pete said, and I think it's difficult because Eddie Howe wants Premier League ready players, and I partly understand it because at the end of the day, Eddie Howe knows he's under a lot of pressure, and this isn't a normal job, and we've shot through the league far quicker than what we thought we had. Obviously, we've had a fantastic end to last season. We've played Champions League football this season, and it's not quite gone the way that we'd hoped this season so far. But Eddie Howe needs players to come in and do a job. It's all well and good, going for potential superstars who play abroad or South Americans or whatever. And I agree with you, Daz, in that I think there is room to bring in 1 or 2 of them. But Eddie Howe is not going to hang his hat on players like that because that is a risk by doing so, and that's why Premier League players, particularly English Premier League players, come with a premium. We've seen it with Harvey Barnes. We'll probably see it with Morgan Gibbs White. We're already hearing rumours of 70 million for Onana. Like that Newcastle won't do a deal like that. I'd be very surprised if we did. Morgan Gibbs White, I would hope you could get for 50 million or maybe slightly less. But I doubt that Newcastle will go much higher than that. But this is the problem, boys, because you can bring in these, you can bring in players from different leagues, from different nations. And the difficulty is you don't know how quickly they're going to settle. They could end up being superstars, or They could come to the Premier League or England and just not settle. And Eddie Howe hasn't got time for that. We've already heard the owners say we can't make mistakes in the transfer market because we're not at that point yet. And I think the bigger we get and the more money we generate and the better position that we're in and the stronger the squad is, we'll probably then see in years to come, yeah, do you know what, we'll try him for 12 million from the Colombian League or something, you know, we'll give it a go. But right now, Eddie Howe can't do that because if he gets it wrong in 7, 8, 9, 10 games, it could be like, yeah, sorry, Eddie, thanks for all your hard work, see ya. And then he'll think, maybe I shouldn't have gone with him, maybe I should have gone with the tried and tested. And I think that's the difficulty at the moment. In time, I think he'll build his squad. His squad will be more capable. He'll trust his squad a lot more. Because we've seen the big thing with Eddie Howe this season is trust. And quite clearly, he doesn't trust a lot of those players because the ones on the bench, they hardly get on the pitch because he doesn't trust them to come in and do a job. As soon as he's got a squad full of players he trusts, he will probably then go, do you know what? I'll have a go with him. Yeah, why not? Let's bring him in. Right now, he can't afford to do that.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go to a few more because there's some interesting ones here. I'm laughing at myself. But first of all, I want to say at the poll, the results of the poll, would you accept an offer of between 18 to 20 million pounds for Kieran Trippier? 82% yes, 12% no, and 4% on the fence with Double Ostado. There was 238 votes. I'm sure everyone as well as smashed the like button as well as that. But that's interesting. A lot of people are willing to sell Kieran Trippier. Then Andy Ford has this one. Could be linking back to what you said, Chris, about bringing in 3. Maybe would I bring it in 2? But you guys are nuts. You've got no. We've got no money to due to FFP. We sell Trips and Miggy for 35 million. So we can now buy Sesko, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Onana for 150 million. Give your heads a shake, please. Now, we didn't. Chris said 3, but yeah. Okay, if we were to sell, I was thinking if we were to sell 4, as in Miggy, Wilson, Trips, and Lascelles, and just linking to a comment there from Jimmy, he said that rumors that Besiktas are coming over for talks in the next couple of days. So if we were to sell those 4, that would unlock FFP for us, and that would allow us to look at buying maybe 2, and maybe taking a bit from the budget in the summer as well, and knowing that the Adidas money and so on and so forth is coming in. Sorry, go on, Pete.
I was going to say, just to add, let's not forget, Harry Mankilio's wages have been taken off. Now he's left the club, so that's, although that's not a transfer fee, they've Darren Hill didn't just talk about transfer fees. He talked about he's also talked about wages. The club have talked about getting wages off the bill as well, which is really important. Newcastle United would love no more than to have someone take Chris's boy, Jeff Hendricks, off the wage bill. He's on the best part of 60 grand a week. Like that, they're big wages. Harry Mankilio is probably on about 30, 40, but still, for a player that's not even playing football for Newcastle United, that's still a big wage that they've now recouped that they could put towards another signing or cover potentially somebody's loan wage, a percentage of it. And we're not talking about pure signings here. Like, it's very clear that Newcastle United are looking at a loan with an obligation of some form, a bit like we did with Lewis Hall, where we didn't pay the fee up front, but we agreed to a loan with a view to buy. And this is what we said about Morgan Gibbs-White. And we do apologise. I think 1 or 2 have said in the chat he's not 22, he's 23. I think he's going to be 24 this month, actually.
Still a great age.
Again, it's still a great age. And yeah, we missed the age slightly by a year, but it still remains. We've said if Reina leaves Dortmund and goes with the loan with an obligation to Forest, there's no reason why we can't do the same the other way around. Forest is still going to get the money. They're still getting the money. They get the money in the summer. That will go on their new accounts, which will look rosy and shiny for them, which is great, whatever fee we agree with them. And it's money that we don't have to put up front within our budget as well. And that might well leave us to be able to go off and potentially get another player. And so, look, this is how football works. This is how it is. It's all very technical with regards to finances and money. I don't know it all. None of us know it all, the ins and outs of it all. This is why we get Kieran Maguire on the show, because he knows his stuff. And he has said to us, Andy, and he made it clear, January the 1st, go back and watch it, that Newcastle do have money to spend. They have a little bit of money to spend. We're not right on the brink of FFP. If that was the case, as Daz said earlier, quite rightly, we'd have took that 15 million euros and ran with it if we needed the money and we were desperate. We're not. We have money to spend, but Newcastle are being smart. They're trying to raise other money where they keep themselves away from FFP, but equally they're trying to improve the squad, because let's face it, we've been decimated with injuries this season. We've got players that are not returning. Pope, Joe Linton, two massive players that we're not going to see possibly for the rest of the season. Like, we need to improve this squad. We need to. Joe Willock's barely played a game this season. Harvey Barnes the same. Like, they're big players that are not available. We need to improve this squad if we're going to have a chance of getting European football. This squad is still good enough to get European football, but we need additions to help them out. And we said it 2-3 weeks ago. These players need help. They need help. And I think the club have realised that they need help. And I think they're doing everything they possibly can to ensure that Eddie Howe has a squad of players that are going to be fit and available for the rest of the season. Because I tell you what, we've looked at these fixtures before on this channel. If you've not followed the channel, I think you have, Andy, you've been on before, you will know we've looked at these fixtures, and our fixtures for the remainder of the season are positive fixtures. We can go on a really good run and pick up a lot of points here and claim European football. And I think the owners are trying to do whatever they can to ensure that that happens. And fair play to them.
Chris, anything you wanted to say in this one?
Yeah, well, just to kind of follow on from what Pete says. I mean, Andy, like, you know, I'm no FFP expert, and obviously, you know, I know that Sesko, Morgan Gibbs White, and Onana, it's a lot of money. It's 150 million. You're absolutely right. We were talking on previous shows saying that, you know, once we clear some of the deadwood, as we call it, you know, the likes of your Frasers.
I thought it was me.
Mixed hate.
Oh yeah, he's back.
Oh, he's back. You're back. Yeah.
I thought. Sorry, yeah. We were talking about clearing, you know, some of the deadwood. So we were talking about, you know, the likes of your Haydens, your Hendricks, your Ryan Frasers, players like that. And I think we estimated, boys, it was coming in at something like 350 grand a week just from clearing all of those players. Now, if you add into that, your Kieran Trippier, who's probably on a good 100 grand a week. Callum Wilson's probably on 80, 90 grand a week. Jamal Lascelles will be on about 60 grand a week. Miguel Aliron will also probably be on about 50, 60 grand a week. You add that to that money. So there's the wages covered. Then, you know, we've got the seller deal in the summer. We've got the additional payment for the seller deal in the summer. We've got the Adidas money in the summer. Not to mention any more commercial deals that we do. And as Kieran Maguire highlighted and Pete mentioned the show, you know, FFP, when you sell a player, you get the whole price for that player in one lump sum. So if we sold a player for, say, 20 million, but we spread it over 5 years, we can use that money immediately. We get the 20 million immediately. When we buy players, it works slightly different. So if we were to pay 60 million for Morgan Gibbs White and we went to Forest, right, here's 10 million. And then we're going to sign him on a 5-year deal and we do 10 million a season over those 5 years. Our outlay is only initially £10 million. But we've just sold, you know, 1, 2, 3. So say we bring in, I don't know, 40, 50 million in this window. We could feasibly, I'm not saying we're going to, but we could feasibly go and sign 4 £60 million players and just pay 10 million up front. And then obviously over the years, yes, that would impact on the summer, it'd impact on the following summer and the following summer. But if we're bringing in players who, you know, we see as the future of this club, and players who, you know, are going to bring us forward and help build us, we don't necessarily need to spend as much because we're bringing that spending forward to this current window. So I know it sounds crazy, and I know that you see the 35, 40 million for Chips and Miggy, but if we were to sign Sesko, Morgan Gibbs White, and Onana, I'm not saying we'll get all 3, but if we did, or players of that ilk, it's very, very doable, is what I'm saying. I mean, look at when we sold Alan Saint-Maximin. We sold him for 20 million, and then we went and bought, correct me if I'm wrong, we went and bought Harvey Barnes and Tino Livramento. And you know, there alone is 70 million. But because of the way the deal was structured, that's how we were able to do that. So it's a possibility, is what I'd say, Andy. Maybe unlikely, I don't know. But for me, it depends how many players go. I think if 2 go, I would expect 3 in. If 3 go, I would expect 4 in. But we'll have to just wait and see. I mean, I think as a minimum now, I think we need 2 players in, and that's not losing anybody. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know. But I think for me personally, we're going to bring at least 2 in. Where they'll be, I don't know what positions, but I know what positions I'd pick. But we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely doable, Andy. I know it sounds crazy, but it is definitely doable.
It sounds crazy, but we're not totally crazy.
Not
right,
totally.
another one would be great in the life goals, but there to get off the books is Matt Target. And he's $100,000 a week. He'd be great to get it to find out where. Would he fancy a trip to Saudi? I wonder would he.
I don't know if any of you boys seen this. I don't know if people in the chat, guys and girls in the chat, have seen this, but there were tentative links again yesterday with Matt Target and Nottingham Forest.
Yes.
He was very close to going there in the summer. Could it be that part of the agreement that he goes there, that they've wanted him before? Again, there's that conversation there. Will they want him again? Now, for me personally, we've got Dan Burn and we've got Lewis Hall that can play left back. And so we've got our left back situation covered. Do we actually need a left back, a third left back? I don't think so. If there's a potential to get rid of him, wouldn't be surprised if that move gets made. Matt Target left Villa for Newcastle United because he wasn't getting first team football. He likes playing regular football. And if he's given an opportunity to play regular for Forest, you can bet he's going to want to go and play there. And it's whether we can get the money. Who's to say? We signed him for 12 million. Will we get that 12 million back? They gave us 19 million for Chris Wood. Are they going to make it? They took John Joe Shelby off his. Could they do it for a third time? Could they, could they pay the money? 12 million would be a dream for Newcastle United for Matt Target, third choice left back. Absolute dream. There's that as well, and that was a link I think yesterday. I saw that, so that's something that maybe could come to fruition now. He is getting back into to fitness. But just before you go to a few more questions, Daz, there has been an update with regards to Trippier. Martin Hardy of the Times said Bayern Munich are expected to return with an improved offer for Kieran Trippier after the £30 million bid was rejected. So again, there's a few people are saying that the bid's going to come back in at some point. As Newcastle fans, we're likely to need to be prepared for that. And this one's ramped up again, boys, in the last 24 hours. So it's where it looked like he was staying and he wasn't going anywhere, seems to have ramped up again. And it goes back to that desperation we talked about earlier on in the show. They need a right back. They need one to come in. Could he be that guy?
Hello, Bayern Munich. You're obviously watching the show. You've seen the poll, and you know what we'll accept now: between 18 and 20 million pounds. I want to take this one from a fellow who might know here, lads. Who you've heard of crossing the ball and finishing it yourself. Well, this chap, his name goes by the name of Martin Nesbitt. All right, evening, Martin. But he's asked for our thoughts on Shelby dropping her ownership to 6%, Rubens now up to 14%. Now he does go on to answer it with the chatter. Said he share his own thoughts. That I suppose she can't compete with when it comes to transfers, applying the 10% to each of the transfers or any money that needs to be put in after that. But what are you thinking here, guys? Any thoughts on the with Amanda dropping down to 6?
I think from my point of view, big hello by the way to Martin. I think from my point of view, I think this is just the start of the inevitable. I think Amanda Staveley was always going to struggle to maintain the trajectory that Newcastle United are on. And obviously, when you're in partnership or ownership with somebody, you've all got to kind of put in your equal share. And I think if we carry on, growing as we are, Amanda Staveley was always going to struggle to kind of keep up with that. So for me, I think this is kind of the beginning of the end, should we say. That's not to say that she'll cut all ties with Newcastle United. That's not to say that she'll be hired by Newcastle United. But I think gradually her percentage will dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and then eventually she will step aside, and either the Rubens will take over her now remaining 6%, or PIF will subsume it, or maybe we'll get further investment. Who knows? But this didn't come as a big shock to me, and I think it was kind of inevitable because it's going to be difficult for Mandy to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. Just apologies, John Gandley he actually put it in the chat earlier with regards to Trippier. just go through the chat. I've just seen it now. So thanks for putting that question in. If I'm right in thinking, boys, it was mooted really early on in the ownership that Amanda Staveley might well need to step away in terms of her percentage in the club. It was always kind of mooted that would be the case for the reasons that Chris has said, is that she financially doesn't have the money in order to continue to sell or put money into buying players and the percentages and all the rest of it to run this club the way it needs to be run. We knew long term it was kind of always going to be the case. Now, I also am of the mindset that she does have a management contract in place. So even though she is kind of a percentage owner of the club, that she does have a management contract that if eventually she does get bought out of those last kind of 6%, that she still can be part of the club and running it on a day-to-day basis. So it's not that we lose Amanda Staveley and she's going to disappear. She loves this club and she will stay a part of this club for as long as she possibly can. And it's very, very clear that PIF trust her, Nedad and Jamie Rubin, to run this on a day-to-day basis, and they're doing a very, very good job of it. And I don't see why that would need to change anytime soon. So for me, I think this is potentially a good sign, because it means that the Rubens are going to continue to put the money in, or big percentages of money in. It means that there's a lesser need for Amanda Staveley to put as much money in as she needs to for various different things. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here 6 months' time, or maybe in a year's time, and that percentage is dwindled away or brought out completely as part of that. And she carries on with that management contract and continues to do what she needs to do. So I just think it wasn't a massive surprise to me. And if for anyone that's kind of worrying that she's going to be going away, I genuinely don't see that. I see her working and being a part of this club for years to come, for sure.
Cool. Let's have some quick fire answers. A yes, no, or whatever the case may be. So, right, first up is from Will. It goes, if we sell 4 players, have you written off the season then and not bringing in anyone else? I'd say yes.
I wouldn't say we've written off the season, but I think we're not going to buy for the sake of buying. So I would say no, because I know that we're going to be investing in the summer.
Okay, Pete.
No, we're not writing off the season. In actual fact, we could potentially be making ourselves stronger. Not necessarily in the long run, not necessarily because we're losing the likes of Trippier. He's a fantastic player, but I think as a squad, we will be stronger to attack the season. And I think we'll be better for it.
And I'm saying if we sell Miggy, Wilson, Trippier, and Lascelles, yes, we are writing off the season and not bringing in anyone else. Anyway, let's move on. It's quick fire. Next one is, if you could change one thing in the last year, what would it be? For me, it would be signing Diaby instead of Barnes. Good point. I changed that. Hang on for another couple of seconds in Paris and get through to the next round of the Champions League.
If you're talking about signing, I'm going to go James Maddison.
Of course.
Standard procedure. For me, if I was going to change anything about the games this season, we should have fucking beat Liverpool. We should have beat them at home. If I was to change any game, it's that. Liverpool at home.
I'm gonna cheat and say the obvious one. So I'm actually gonna agree with FMOGB on this. Like, I would have loved us to get Diaby in terms of signings. I would have loved to get Diaby, and I think he would have been a fantastic signing. So I think that's a great shout. In terms of games, and he says last year, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I would have changed the results of the Carabao Cup final. So sorry to cheat, but
we meant the season.
Yeah,
I went with the fine print. I had to, but no. I mean, this season, yeah, I agree. Liverpool game all day.
Hypothetical, I'd say get as well if you got someone else to put on the bets for Tonali. Anyway, moving on. Let's go to from Tony. When Wilson leaves, does Isak get the number 9 shirt, or does a new striker get it?
Easy. A new striker gets it because Alexander Isak loves the number 14 because he loved Thierry Henry.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. 100%. New striker gets it for exactly the same reason.
Speaking of new strikers, Stu says Victor Osimhen saying he knows where he's going in the summer. Wonder where he ends up. Probably not at Newcastle, but would he get the number 9 shirt if for your eyes?
Yes. And I'd love him to get it. Yeah, no, Victor Osimhen. I mean, I must admit, I think I posted this in the group actually, boys. They get a little bit excited when he said that, but I'm sure we're not looking at Victor Osimhen because I think Pete said the other week, and it was a fair point. We've kind of got our Victor Osimhen, and we wouldn't swap our Alexander Isak for Victor Osimhen. So I think he will go elsewhere. I do think he'll end up in the Premier League, but I don't think it'll be Newcastle.
Yeah, I agree. He's not coming to Newcastle. I think we'll look for a top young striker to come in, maybe a Benjamin Sesko, who knows, to supplement Alexander Isak. But I think Tosman's a quality striker, but I don't think we need to outlay 130 million on a striker when we've got 130 million striker in Alexander Isak already smashing the goals in for us.
And I'm not being funny, like, how do you keep both happy? Would you want Alexander Isak playing on the left?
No.
I wouldn't.
He needs to be down moving forward.
Yeah. And you can't keep both happy, I don't think, because they'll both want to play.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I've got someone else that could take the number 9 shirt for a while, and it comes from a chap that has spent more time in the chat than he has on when he was working with us on the shows. It comes from Martin Nesbitt. He says, "Would you take Benzema? Would you take?"
Firstly, Martin, hope you're well. What I will say is that there's strong rumours tonight that Benzema is going back to Lyon.
Heard that, yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
So, yeah, to answer that question, I would take him, but I don't think he's coming to the Premier League, which is sent Arsenal fans into meltdown. They talked themselves into the fact that they thought they were getting Benzema in. To be fair, he'd have made them title challenges. I'm convinced of it. He's so good. But, look, 600 grand a week, he was never going to Arsenal.
No.
I would take him, though. I would take him.
Chris, well, and I wonder, is this you asking this question? Because it comes from Chris, NUFC. And the question, lads, would you swap Miggy for Mahrez?
First of all, great name. Yeah, of course I would. I love Riyad Mahrez. Fantastic player. I mean, he's not a great age, but fantastic player. But yeah, if you offered me right now Miggy for Mahrez, yeah, I would take. I couldn't not.
Heartbeat.
Even the dog agrees. Right. Another one from Tom Dixon. I'm going to direct this one at you, Pete, and I know the answer because we're doing it on Saturday instead. But Tom asked, this week, is there an away days?
I don't know. I think
the answer was no.
So focused on transfers. I think we'll wait for this one and we'll come back with Aston Villa. We'll see if Rich Sutherland and Billy are available to talk all things Villa Newcastle. So hold on to the Villa game rather than the Fulham one.
Okay, I'm going to go. I have to go for this one from Life Goals here. For you, Chris, James Trafford is supposedly the new Neville Southall. Would you love that?
Do you know what? I think that James Trafford looks really decent. I've seen him play a few times. Obviously, he's come from the Man City Academy and he's joined Burnley and he's looked half decent. Whether he's as good as Neville Southall, he wouldn't cover the goal as well as Neville Southall. We know that. But no, do you know what? I think he could be a decent shout, James Trafford, because he's not done bad for Burnley this season. Is he number one potential? I don't know, but he's certainly a player we should keep an eye on. Yeah, a good player.
Can I just give the Geordies Down South chat a big up for this? I think it might have been Daryl or Segs, and I can't remember which one talked about it. But they kept putting Trafford into the chat, saying he's a quality player. We need to get into. I'm not convinced, and he's a good goalkeeper. But there's just elements to his game that I'm thinking, if we're going to get a goalkeeper that's going to replace Pope, it has to be top
big.
And that's my question mark on him. And I don't think he's quite there or going to be there, I think, for a number of years, if he ever does get there. And that's my question mark. And that's what, like, they bigged him up, to be fair. So I'm glad someone else has kind of mentioned it. Mamadashvili, who knows? You got Diego Carlos. Sorry, not Carlos, Diego Costa at Porto. And there's a number of others out there that you could probably look at as an alternative young goalkeeper that's already at the level that you could bring in and be elite. So I'm not sold on Trafford just yet.
Do you know what I was watching? Not to segue too much, but I was watching, and I mentioned earlier about the top clubs having top goalies. I was watching Villa the other day, and I thought, you know what we could do with that Martinez. I'm not saying we're going to get him, but somebody like him, he's just he is just horrible, isn't he? He's horrible, but he commands his box so well. He's big, he's strong, he throws himself in front of things, and like again, it kind of shows you need that real strong goalkeeper, and that I do genuinely feel that's what we're lacking. Tottenham have brought in Vicario this season. I've already mentioned Liverpool with Alisson, Man City with Ederson, Man U, they are where they are because of Onana at the minute. But, if they had like that solid number one who you kind of, you want your defence to turn around and go, he'll be all right. We've got him behind us. We're going to be fine. And I just feel like I don't feel that with Pope. I think Pope's a good goalkeeper, as I've said before, but I still want that number one goalkeeper where you go, wow, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. And I don't think we've had that probably since Shea Given. And Shea Given had his doubters, by the way. I wasn't wholly convinced on Shea Given, but he had his faults. But he was a fantastic shot stopper. It was just the fact that he was a little bit small for me, but that's a separate story.
Because you're fascinated with Neville Southall still.
Oh, mate, where it take me to get lobbed all the time. I used to say to him, stand on your line, because I think he was only about 6'6'1", which is small for the goalkeeper. The amount of times Shea Given used to get lobbed, but separate story.
5'10".
5'10". Oh, but there you go then. There you go.
Right. Let's move on. We're going to stop with the questions. Yes, another keeper from Borussia Dortmund. Yeah. Right. Just to we're going to go to tell people what's happening tomorrow, because we're back with another show tomorrow. We're back with a guest. But just we're going to give a shout out to the sponsors, and also people ask the question. Yes, when does the show go out on Spotify? The next day we'll be trying to get the show out on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Music. But yes, if you were one of the people listening on one of the podcast platforms, come and join us on YouTube some evening as well. Catch a live show, get your questions in the chat, and make sure you're subscribed as well on YouTube, as well as following us on the podcast platforms. Right, shout out to HAO Bathroom Design Co. and all the beautiful bathrooms that the lads have there. I'm not going to show the pictures because they're out of date. They've got new showrooms, and we're going to get the new pictures and show them to you then. And also shout out to the RadiatorShed.com and Russ and his radiators. And you go and set them up for you as well. But best, as we always say, go talk to the guys. Go to the website, check out the latest there, and go give them a call, send them an email. They'll get back to you, and they will sort out your needs there. But Pete, do you want to tell us what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah. We've got the main man coming back to join us. Mr. Jordan Cronin from Newcastle World is coming to join us to talk about all things mad Newcastle United related. So yeah, there we go. That's the one.
There he is. Might change, but that's general gist of it so far.
Yeah, pretty much. No doubt there might be a couple of extra players added to that by the time we get to the show tomorrow. Who knows in the world of Newcastle United? But Jordan's coming back. Looking forward to chatting to us, and we're looking forward to chatting with him as well. So yeah, look, this Loading Mag NUFC train does not stop. We'll keep chugging along with fantastic shows. I have to say, great number of likes as well. I can't remember the exact number, but thank you for all the likes as well. And we've had over 10 subscribers again tonight that are subscribed to the channel. So thank you for your support with that. If you're one of them, massive thanks. If you haven't, click the subscribe and give us a like on the way out. But thank you for all your support. It's been amazing and much appreciated. Fantastic questions in the chat. Comments the lot, like the discussion.
Share the show, tell your friends, bring them along to Loaded, join the family, join the Loaded Ultras if you would like as well. And yeah, because this transfer window is not finished yet. But yeah, that's it. Thanks everyone. Only one thing left to say. How'd you like that? Good night, everyone. Drink it, like me, then tell me if you like that.